Hi, my name's Bethan Hunt and I'm the UK Programmes Manager at Stronger Together, and I'm here today on the first day of Anti-Slavery Week with Hannah Newcombe, co-CEO of Stronger Together, to talk about how we're working to raise awareness of modern slavery and support businesses to take action in their operations and supply chains. For those of you who've yet to come into contact with Stronger Together, we're an impact-driven, not-for-profit organisation providing businesses with practical training, resources, business services, and collaborative programmes in order to create a world where all workers are recruited responsibly and have fair work free from exploitation. To start, Hannah, can you tell us what is Anti-Slavery Day?
Yeah, thanks, Bethan. So in 2010, an Act of Parliament of the United Kingdom introduced a national day to raise awareness of the need to eradicate all forms of slavery, human trafficking, and exploitation. Tackling modern slavery requires year-round commitment from businesses, but Anti-Slavery Day on the 18th of October and Anti-Slavery Week, which it falls within, provides that real key focal point each year to renew commitment and momentum on this crucial agenda.
You mentioned all forms of slavery there, Hannah. Can you expand on that a little and where Stronger Together's particular focus lies?
So modern slavery is an umbrella term used to describe offences of human trafficking, slavery, forced labour and domestic servitude, and then slavery-like practices such as debt bondage, sale or exploitation of children, and forced or servile marriage. So those are all varied in nature, but they all involve one person depriving another person of their liberty in order to exploit them for personal or commercial gain. At Stronger Together, we're particularly focused on how slavery relates to the world of work. So in other words, we work with businesses on embedding responsible recruitment and employment practices and taking those proactive steps to mitigate risks of forced labour and wider labour exploitation in their operations and supply chains.
And is forced labour really an issue in the UK in 2022?
Yeah, well, it was back in 1807 when the UK passed the Slave Trade Act, prohibiting participation in the slave trade. But we know that slavery has evolved since then. It's become more hidden, where exploiters and criminal gangs infiltrate legitimate businesses. And workers might arrive at work having already faced significant exploitation during the recruitment process. The new global estimates on modern slavery, released in September for 2021, estimated that there are now nearly 50 million people in situations of modern slavery on any given day. That's 10 million more than 5 years ago. And of that 50 million, 27.6 are in a situation of forced labour. Here in the UK, we're seeing huge increases in the number of reported modern slavery victims. It's present in every UK town and city. Back in 2014, the official estimate was around 10 to 13,000 victims in the UK. But this has since been acknowledged by the National Crime Agency as just the tip of the iceberg. The most recent estimates place the numbers in the UK around at least 100,000.
You mentioned there gangs and exploitative businesses and criminal activity. And we're aware from our work that these organisations are always evolving their techniques in order to exploit workers. Could you tell us a little bit about the particular emerging risks that businesses in the UK need to be aware of?
Yeah, well, I think firstly, we know that poverty is directly linked to vulnerability to forced labour and wider labour exploitation. And so with the cost of living increases in the UK and globally, we're seeing reports that this could lead to increases in modern slavery cases. So businesses will need to be extra vigilant in ensuring that their workforce and any new recruits are being responsibly recruited and employed, and to understand and look for those signs and know how to deal with that and support any workers that might be affected. Secondly, we are seeing increasing risks around conflict, climate change and the impact on migration. For example, we recently published a specific guide to support workers affected by the Ukraine crisis. More broadly, we've seen emerging risks around the UK's new immigration system, with overseas recruitment opening up from many new routes where due diligence may be less established, or where charging of recruitment fees may be more of an entrenched practice. There's been lots of media coverage around the UK seasonal worker scheme, for example, but also we have the Tier 2 skilled worker route. We've got new visas such as the health and social care visa and scale-up visa. And businesses will need to implement effective recruitment and labour supply chain due diligence to ensure that those workers are being recruited responsibly.
And for any businesses who are listening to this or watching this and hearing about those risks, what are the drivers for them to respond?
Well, beyond the moral and reputational case for responding to risks of modern slavery, we've also seen a number of legislative developments, not least the much anticipated update to the UK Modern Slavery Act, with the Modern Slavery Bill confirmed for this Parliament. That bill is expected to introduce additional requirements already confirmed by government to increase the accountability of companies and other organisations on their supply chain transparency. We're also seeing some advocacy groups calling for further developments to that bill, including the introduction of import ban legislation, similar to what's already in place in the US and what the EU Commission has confirmed it's moving ahead to introduce in the EU. And we also have this trend towards mandatory human rights due diligence legislation already in place in countries including France and Germany, again confirmed by the EU and being called for by many businesses and investors in the UK. So I think businesses wanting to stay ahead and be prepared for these developments, there's a real case for them to be taking action to respond to these risks from that legislative perspective as well.
Thanks, Hannah. And could you tell us a little bit more about how Stronger Together is supporting businesses to tackle the risks that you've outlined and respond to those trends?
Yeah, so Stronger Together works with businesses to identify where risks of modern slavery and exploitation could occur in their own operations and within their supply chains, supporting them to implement the good practice to embed responsible recruitment and employment practices and mitigate risks of exploitation across their operations and supply chains. At the heart of Stronger Together are the job seekers and workers for whom we want to make a difference. Bethan, could you share a bit more about the specific programmes, training and resources that are available to businesses in the UK and what businesses can do next?
Yes, so in the UK, we have a number of collaborative programmes supporting businesses to tackle modern slavery and embed responsible recruitment. And these programmes include the UK Consumer Goods Programme. We have a programme specifically in the construction sector and also through our Responsible Recruitment Toolkit programme, which sits across a range of sectors. And suppliers into the sponsors of these programmes can access Stronger Together training and resources for free. There's also a real wealth of free resources available on our website that any business can access, and a wider range of open workshops and bespoke support that we can offer to support your business. So please do get in touch with us to find out how we can help. Today is the first day of Anti-Slavery Week, so make sure to follow our social media pages as we'll be sharing our practical resources, latest news updates, and more throughout the week of action.